Guitar Dads Podcast, a podcast for guitar people by guitar dads. This week, did radio kill the video star? Keith Urban is a knockout, and our guest is going from Bakersfield to Nashville. We're watching it burn this week on the Guitar Dads Podcast. Now, the dudes who would never hesitate to burn this show to the ground, Matt and Dave.
Hello, everybody. I'm Matt.
And I'm Dave, and welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome.
We will burn
joining.
this thing to the ground.
Oh, we might be taking it to the ground. Not tonight. One of these nights.
Not tonight, but I mean, eventually. Yeah. All right.
Anyway, all right. Well, thanks for joining. Thanks to our loyal listeners, and if you're new, thanks for checking us out. Come back next week. We hope you get some entertainment this week. Yeah. And you know where to find us at Guitar Dads Podcast on Instagram and Facebook group. Come on over, join the group, have some fun. And if you want to support the show, thank you so much to our patrons that are already supporting us for a low cost a month. But if you want to go over to patreon.com/guitardadspodcast, you can support the show. And again, thanks to our patrons that are already there. And you get an extra episode a week. You know, if you really want to hear us talk extra, which is very, very few of you, but you know.
I know some of you do, which we appreciate.
We appreciate.
That's right.
Anyway, well, we got a special guest tonight, Matt, don't we?
Yeah, we got another very special guest.
Another very special guest.
Let's get into it.
All right. So when it comes to working hard in the music biz, Ash Taylor knows all about it. She released her debut EP in 2019, and it quickly rose to number 6 on the iTunes Top 100 Country Albums. She is a multiple award winner and a musician who's always performing. Ash takes a break from her hectic schedule to sit down with us for a chat about music, life, and what's next. Hey, Ash, thanks for sitting down and joining with the Guitar Dads.
Oh, of course. Thank you guys for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Yeah,
we got so much to talk about. We're gonna do deep dive into everything, music and life and all that fun stuff.
I love it.
Yeah. We have so much to ask you, and it could get deep. It could get really deep. So let's all
it's going to get
the
deep.
Listeners here. Could get deep. Very philosophical. We always get very very philosophical.
Well, I'm not sweating. I'm not nervous yet. So let's dive in.
We got some hard hitting questions, Ash.
Yeah,
gosh. Well, now I'm nervous. Now,
this might as well be like a TMZ kind of thing,
Yeah,
that's right.
No,
this is tough. No, it's more like kidding. No, it's not TMZ. It's more like I don't know who is like Barbara Walters. That's more like that.
Barbara Walters.
Yeah.
Jeez, you're going way back.
That's going back.
It's a flashback.
That's right. That's a flashback. Yeah, she's the one that always made everybody cry and stuff. All right.
She always had the pearls too, and like a pantsuit. So she kind of looks like your mom or your grandma, and yet she made everyone cry. It's like, how does this little lady just kill you, destroy you?
I know. It's
She did like a good pantsuit,
She rocked those pantsuits.
She was great, and you'd always get to see the pantsuit because there was always like a clip of her like walking with the celebrity, like in their on their mansion grounds or something.
Yeah.
And it was like pearls in a pantsuit, and I'm just like, wow, this woman takes it seriously though. Seriously.
Yeah. She had the outfit.
She had it. She had it going on.
It's a fun time.
She definitely had it going on.
All
right. Well, let's get into it. Ash, as we talked about before we started recording, we're going to get into a quick news and notes segment because there are a couple things came up this week that we thought might be interesting to get your opinion on.
And we call it the Dataverse.
So let's get into the Dataverse.
Yes. We've arrived.
All right.
The spaceship has touched down into the Dataverse.
The spaceship has arrived.
All right.
As I mentioned in the intro, Keith Urban has now joined The Voice as a mega mentor in the knockout rounds that are coming up.
What's a mega mentor?
Exactly. So I read this and I'm like, what the heck?
There's always something new with this voice. That's ridiculous.
So he's not like a coach, but he's like, just for the knockout rounds, he'll be part of like the whatever. I don't watch The Voice, so maybe the two of you can. No, I don't.
I've watched it I've watched it enough. I'm not like a loyal follower, but what about you, Ash? What do you think?
I actually think it's really funny. So I actually auditioned for The Voice and made it through like multiple rounds.
Oh wow!
But I had never seen an episode. And so I like actually went online to watch episodes because I was like, before I go any further, maybe I should know what it is I'm actually signing up for. And then I was like, oh yeah, I'm okay. But I mean, hey, that's cool about Keith Urban. I mean,
so wait a minute. Okay, so now we have to know about this. So tell us about what it was like when you like. Did you get in front of the judges and they turned their thing around?
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I didn't get to that. I did not get to that
Okay.
point. Simply
Okay.
just
All
because
right.
I chose not to. But
Okay.
I'm sure it's probably no secret. But basically, I had someone from The Voice like reach out to my manager, and then I went through
Yeah.
a series of like filming videos of myself singing live and accompanying myself
Interesting.
not. And then we would do like Zoom meetings and. They'd put you in different situations and ask for an original, a cover, like so. It was a lot of that kind of stuff before you ever even get to like a judge's chair or anything.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I would assume. So like a lot of kind of vetting and stuff.
oh yeah, like
Yeah.
hardcore before you
Yeah.
ever get I have an older brother too, who actually is a really great singer and he's been on Broadway and
Oh,
he
awesome.
currently lives up in Oregon and he actually runs a school teaching acting and voice and stuff.
Oh wow.
But he actually was on American Idol the same
Oh.
season
wow,
as
cool.
Kelly Clarkson. So that was like
Oh,
season
nice.
1 back in the day.
Oh,
So
wow.
Way
he's
back.
considerably older than I am. But he said that it was the same thing even back then in those days with American Idol. You know, it's you don't just walk into a room and there's Simon and Paula and all. It was months of stuff where it's like
Before
he
you
couldn't
get
cut
there.
his hair, he couldn't gain weight, lose weight. It was like we're gonna put you through all this stuff and then you go in. So sorry guys, no TV magic. I burst the bubble.
No, it's not.
It's
people
so
don't
like
understand
perfectly
this.
curated.
No, it's
just
casted. A lot of these reality shows, people don't realize how casted they are because produced because our listeners don't know, but Matt knows. I used to do well, I still do, but I still dabble in it. But I do a lot of like close up magic, and I once auditioned for America's Got Talent. And it's the same kind of thing. Like, and
they're like, you don't got talent.
You don't have talent. Yeah. You're just sitting in front of like a producer, and they're just filming you. And then it gets sent to somebody else. And then next stage. Before you ever get into like what appears to be like the judging phase, you've gone through multiple times.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, I know there's a lot of people that today are very, very successful in the music industry. Like Tori Kelly, Lainey Wilson. I guess all these people either got dropped off of one of those shows or they basically never even made it to an audition like in person. I think Lainey Wilson was turned down by like American Idol several times. I just read.
Which is insane,
she's
right?
amazing.
Yeah, I've heard that.
She's so good.
That's crazy.
Wait a minute, Tori Kelly, like the girl from Sing?
Yeah, she started on American Idol and didn't make it very far, and she got eliminated.
Incredible,
right? Well, and I think
I
think that's the thing. I don't really know how much comes down to actual talent. Like you said,
it doesn't.
The script and the story, and
exactly.
And I mean, hey, if that works for some people, though, I think that's great because I always say like I never say that I hate someone's music. Because I really think everyone's actually talented. I just think if I don't necessarily care for someone's music or someone's singing voice, that just means that they don't make records for me.
Yeah, totally.
So everyone's talented. It's like go do what you want to be successful. But I think for me, like the reason why I decided not to push The Voice further is they basically were talking about like losing my instrument, and it was like just do this and that.
Really?
I was like, yeah, and I was like, well, for me, that's just not part of my brand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's.
Right.
That's not what I want to do, so I don't want to do it. You know what I mean?
Well, people like Lainey Wilson getting dropped from a thing like that just goes to show you like how a lot of these producers and production assistants who are doing half this stuff don't really understand the artist. They're looking. Like you said, they're looking for the story, they're looking for the show, and of course, because it's going to be on TV, and they need to worry about ratings first.
So on The Voice. So on The Voice, has anybody really made it like in the like made it big out of The Voice? I think there's something going on with The Voice. To me, it just seems way too much about the judges and like, let's like, make fun of Blake and, like, let's have a great time. It's like, it doesn't seem like it's like American Idol back in the day that produced all the it didn't produce a ton of megastars, but you get Kelly Clarkson and you got Carrie Underwood, like the megas, like just superstars, right? Yeah. Like to me, like that's enough, right? But then there's like a string of other one that have gone on to be pretty successful. But I don't like, is that the case in The Voice? I don't follow it quickly enough. Like, I don't think it does anybody any favors in the end. So
I'm having a hard time naming somebody from The Voice that
yeah.
went on to do. I mean, maybe Ray Lynn.
Oh yeah, Ray Lynn. Yeah, she probably is the most famous.
I mean, and
one,
that's I don't know what season she's on. Like I said, I don't really watch too much of it, but yeah. I mean, I'm having a hard time thinking of names for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. It's just all about the judges. And you remember, like back in the day, American Idol, like it was kind of about the judges, but like no one knew who Simon was, no one knew who Randy was. And yeah, people knew who Paula Abdul was, but she was kind of washed up at that point. And it just like, you know what I mean? Like it was, I don't know. I think American Idol was such a moment for like 10 years, a moment.
Yeah.
And then I think like The Voice, even though The Voice is a very popular show, like I said, I think it's because of the judges, you know?
Yeah. So, well, and having Keith Urban on, I mean, I think Keith Urban is a great judge, and I've had the chance to meet him a couple times, and he is like the nice guy. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
He is like the nicest guy. So
he seems so cool. He does.
He seems like that.
Yeah. No, he's always been just super kind and super, super nice. And one time he had like his girls with him, his two little girls, and you could tell he was just like super dad. And you know, I always just think Keith Urban is such an incredible guitar player. Like,
he's awesome. Just insane,
dude.
Yeah.
I remember learning. So like, you know, growing up, I always loved the Dixie Chicks records. I don't know if that was in your guys' thing, but growing up as a girl, that was my jam. And but I remember learning that like Keith Urban played, you know, he was a session player and played like on Fly by the Dixie Chicks, that whole album. And I'm just like, dude, how cool are you, man?
Yeah, he's amazing.
But I think that's awesome that it brings someone like him in, because that's the thing. It's like, he really is just the real deal. It'd be really cool to learn from him. So I think that makes sense. He's great.
He's such a genuine dude. Is he still giving a guitar away at every show?
I think he does. Yeah.
Does he do that every show for real?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
And they're nice guitars from what I've seen.
They're nice guitars. Yeah. They're not like, he's not just like giving you like, you know, your basic like old first act Strat, you know.
He's such a monster. Yeah. So do you remember they did this thing called CMT Crossroads, and he did his with John Mayer? Like, you can go back and watch the YouTube videos. It's like, I mean, for a guitar dad, it's like guitar heaven with those.
It's a clinic.
Oh.
And they're like, and you can tell that like they're having such a great time like playing off each other. It's like, it's amazing. Like that's when I really got turned on to Keith Urban. I'm like, I heard him on the radio, but then I saw that. I was like, this guy can really play. And
it's like
the real deal.
Massive respect.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's awesome. You know, even though he's an Australian, but that's, you know, that's all right. We have Australian listeners. We have Australian listeners. Sorry, guys. That's a joke. We love Australia.
It's a joke. Yeah. It's a joke. It's a joke.
We love Australia. We love our Aussie listeners.
The wrong sound.
That's a wrong drum sound.
Wrong one. We need this one. There we go. And that just gets, you know, we gotta get the laugh in. There we go.
Get the laugh.
Get it in.
But you mentioned CMT, Matt. The CMTs, the award show is coming up on April 7th. Ash, are you into this? Are you into like award shows at all? And who are you excited to see if you are?
Well, you've won some awards, so you must be into some.
You have,
of them.
Well, you know, I've won awards, which is always nice, but I've never won a CMT award, not yet, but we're working on that. No, I mean, I always just try to watch them because I think it's kind of cool just to see performances and just kind of get to hear acceptance speeches. And, you know, I think it's a cool thing. And I love, there's a lot of artists that I think I'm very just happy to see succeed. I mean, for me, Lainey Wilson is definitely one of them. Yeah. I started following Lainey Wilson back in like 2015, 2016.
Really?
I started following her. Wow. Yeah, I followed her on Instagram. And at the time, like, she didn't have a record deal or nothing. And then it was, I think it was 2017 or 2019. I can't remember, that she actually got signed. And I mean, then it just started all happening so quick. But like, I'm an OG Lainey Wilson fan. I followed her when she wasn't signed or anything, and just loved what she did. I thought she was funny. And so, you know, just things like that. So it's cool to see how she's progressed in the matter of a couple of years. For me, I really admire Ashley McBryde. Big fan, man, of her songwriting. Talk about just an amazing vocalist, just incredible. But yeah, I mean, man, I just love country music, honestly. So I like to watch and just hang out and see what's going on.
Now, what
Yeah.
did you think of Lainey like on Yellowstone and that whole thing?
You know what? Don't shoot me. I've never seen an episode of
Oh, you haven't
Yellowstone.
seen Yellowstone? Okay, all right, all
No,
right.
You
no.
you either
Everyone
then, huh? Okay.
says
I'm not alone.
no, no. Well, everyone says that I should, and it sounds like something I would like. But to be honest, sometimes I just find it hard to take time to watch TV shows. I guess.
Totally, I totally understand that. Yeah.
Know the
Yeah.
feeling.
I don't even have cable at my house. I'm a weirdo. But yeah, but I know that people have said that she's great in it. And I
I
can
mean,
see
I
where
think
she would
that
be
definitely
great in it.
helped. The cool thing about Yellowstone that that attracted to it, I was attracted to it even more is how they like really like leaned into the music, right? Like some of
Yeah.
our favorite bands were on it, like Whiskey Myers,
hmm
and Blackberry Smoke had some. So they weren't on it the way that Whiskey Myers was, but they had some songs on it, and I was like, wow, these
Yeah.
guys are pulling up these bands that aren't like kind of mainstream bands, but it's kind of the
Right.
feel of the show with these kind of bands. And then Lainey came on as like, it was like a character, and
Yeah.
it was cool, and I think that really helped her quite a bit, as it should have, because she did great on it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Good for her.
yeah, it was cool. Anyway, what else we got,
All
Dave?
right. Well, that is the Dataverse. That's our news and notes. Hopefully next week we'll have some more exciting news, but it was kind of a slow music news week. Anyway, more importantly, Ash, let's get into this. Tell us, kind of give us like, the quick like journey, the music journey, and kind of how you got into this, and then what brought you where you are today.
Oh, okay. Um, well, I grew up, for starters, out in California in a farm town in Central California called Bakersfield. So, for anyone listening that maybe hasn't heard of it, it's a very musical farm town, is how I like to describe it. But we're the birthplace of Merle Haggard and, just
Oh,
the
okay.
Bakersfield sound, Buck
Yeah.
Owens and Dwight Yoakam. So, that's where I'm from. And so that's where I grew up. And basically, my Nana was actually the reason though that I actually really came to like love country music. My Nana just always had on CMT. She always had on the radio or a cassette tape or just some form of country music. I remember the very first song that I ever remember hearing was Coal Miner's Daughter by Loretta Lynn. And my Nana was playing it
Nice.
on a cassette tape. And it's like that memory just stuck with me. But yeah, so I just kind of grew up, surrounded by country music, and I loved it thanks to my Nana and her introducing it. And then I've lived actually a lot of lives in music. I always joke and say, but I actually started out in music. I got my first guitar when I was 17. So I was
Oh,
actually a
wow.
little bit of a later starter.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that is a little bit late.
yeah, man, I had a family friend give me a guitar, and I went and got a Hal Leonard guitar method book. It was like
Yeah.
$7.
Yeah.
I got it used at the thrift store, and I sat and I would teach myself how to play. And I knew maybe like 3 or 4 chords, and I would start writing terrible, terrible songs in like my diary. I mean, it was so bad. Like it was so bad. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but I really enjoyed it. But yeah, and then from there, I actually went into audio school. That's actually how I got into music.
Oh, really?
Interesting.
Oh,
I knew someone at my church, and I was, kind of playing guitar in youth group and stuff. And he owned a recording studio and music school there in Bakersfield, in my hometown. His name's Reggie. And Reggie basically said, "Hey, have you ever considered being an audio engineer?" And I was like, "I don't even think I know what that is." And he was like, "No," he's like, "Seriously," he's like, "I think you'd be a really good one, because you just, attention to detail on like tones and how things sound and stuff." He's like, I think you'd really be good at it." So I actually studied with him for a year and then became his intern. So I actually went to audio engineering school out there in Bakersfield. And then I
Wow.
also went to an all-girl audio school out in Southern California, which is WAM. They call it Women's Audio Mission.
Wow.
So I worked there. I worked in a couple studios in LA just for a short amount of time. I did some tracking sessions with the rock band Korn.
Oh,
many,
wow.
Yeah, many
Yeah,
people
very
don't know,
cool.
but they're a Bakersfield band. That's where they're from.
I
Yeah,
did
yeah,
not know
that.
that I knew. Yep.
Yeah, and their studio is up in the bluffs there in Bakersfield. And so yeah, I was actually there like an audio engineer, and I was interning and working in studios. And I really enjoy being in the studio and I enjoy that. But not long after I started to do that, I really just kind of realized that I wasn't really cut out for it though. It just wasn't creative enough for me. It was a lot of
Sure.
like, hey, push this button, turn this knob. So from
Yeah.
there, I actually started to write songs. Uh, went back to my bedroom and started to write more terrible songs, and maybe they got a little bit better. But I really think I was like, man, I think I just want to be a songwriter. And so being a country music fan, I knew all about Nashville, and I had heard Trisha Yearwood talk about moving to Nashville and being a tour guide at the Country Music Hall of Fame, and I was just trying to figure out like how do I get there? Like what can I do? And so through just trying to learn how to write songs and how to write songs, especially better, and just to kind of know maybe more of what I'm doing, I honestly scoured the internet and was just trying to find anything that would help, a YouTube video, a website, and anything. I was desperate. And so, I actually landed across this really cool thing called Songtown USA. And so if you've never heard of them, they're like a online songwriting community, but it's ran by two hit writers. One is Marty Dotson, who's written a slew of hits. But the other one is a guy named Clay Mills. And Clay has written so many songs, it's ridiculous. But he's written Beautiful Mess by Diamond Rio, Don't Think I Don't Think About It, Darius Rucker. I mean, the list of just hits goes on and on and on. But these guys actually started it being hit writers to kind of teach writers that are coming up, like, how do you do it? Like, how, what's the process? So I actually ended up striking up a friendship with Clay, and I was really involved in their community, and I was sending in songs and stuff. And finally Clay came to me one day, he sent me a message and he goes, hey, like, Marty and I were talking, and he goes, we think you're great. We think you're super talented and all this. But he goes, you are never going to make it writing songs in your bedroom in Bakersfield, California.
Yeah.
And he's like, if you want to do this, he's like, you need to come out here and you need to do it.
But wait a minute. I worked for Billie Eilish.
Yeah, I know. Where was Billie when I was going through all this?
She wasn't in Bakersfield, but it worked for her. But anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, and I think too, the world, this was 2016 when all this was happening.
Yeah, totally.
So I mean, the world was probably a bit different, but yeah, man, he said that to me, and that stuck out. So he said that though, and then he actually offered for me to be his intern for a year. He's like, if you can get down here and whatever, he goes, intern. So I was like, cool. So I literally sold everything that I owned, like everything. Wow. And I had never seen Nashville in person. I had never visited, or I didn't know anyone there other than Clay and whatnot. But I literally just sold everything, man. And I jumped on a plane and I moved out here to Nashville, and I had a crazy journey, but I tell you what, I wouldn't change it for anything. But when I first moved here, I literally slept in the back seat of my Chrysler 06 PT Cruiser. I call it a PT loser, by the way. So sorry. Sorry for my dress. But no, I mean, man, I had that whole, rags to riches story. I slept in the back of my car, and
like that movie story that you don't really think exists, but it really does.
It really does.
Just a small town girl living in a lonely world. Yeah.
Well, I didn't have anything. I didn't have anything tying me down. There was nothing there, and it was like when you get an opportunity, to learn from someone who actually does what you want to do in that regards. I mean, and I grew up.
Can't pass that up.
Bakersfield. I'm a poor kid, man. It's like I didn't have a lot of money for school or anything, so I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why not? Like,
why
so
not?
I did.
That's
now,
great.
I say that, but I also hope one day that my husband and I never have a daughter, because I'm afraid she's going to do dumb stuff like this, and we're going to, have some.
Yeah, but it sounds like it wasn't so dumb. It just sounds like it wasn't
so dumb.
No,
you've turned it around, right? So it's a success story.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I slept in my car, and I got a job at a guitar store here in Nashville my first day. And I eventually saved up and got, my own place. And I mean, but it was just building blocks. But how I ended up becoming not only a songwriter, but an artist is actually when I was interning with Clay at Songtown, and I was learning how to write songs, and I was trying to figure all this out. I had multiple people tell me, songwriting is great for you and all, but you're definitely an artist. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. I don't,
what do you mean
when Reggie was like,
what does that
engineer.
mean?
I'm like, what does that mean? Can you explain that to me? But But no, I had a couple different people basically tell me though that, like, hey, you're an artist. And so that's when I kind of started, probably a year and a half after moving to Nashville, I started to kind of switch my gears a little bit and be like, yeah, no, I'm an artist. Let's try that out. And definitely where I fit. Definitely never felt more at home. And it's just my favorite thing in the whole world, and just blessed to be able to do it for a living.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then you put your first EP out in 2019. Was that like your first recorded, like that was everything you've ever recorded for the first time, or had you done some recording on your own in the past? And
No, that was my
that was your
first.
first experience with
That was my first experience. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And honestly, what it was, which I think is funny, because I said, I moved here to write songs for other people. And then I ended up being an artist. And so I've had other people clearly cut and record my songs, which is always nice. But a lot of what you hear on that first EP is actually demos that I was singing on that we were trying to pitch to major label artists.
Oh, interesting.
But they didn't, maybe they passed on them, or maybe a song was on hold, but then it was like, that didn't work out. So when I would get my songs back, I was like, well, I'll just put it out as my own EP.
Oh, nice.
There you go. So yeah.
Why not?
So yeah, that was my first one.
It's great. It's so interesting because Matt and I have had a number of country artists on the show, and I think just in general, country almost lends itself to this idea of uniqueness because everybody we've had on has their own sound, which you hear in rock and other genres, but not as much as in country. And each of the artists we've had on has such like a unique style, unique sound that just is so different than the others. And it's amazing to me in Nashville with all the writers there and all the artists that every time you hear somebody, there's always like that uniqueness, that difference,
Yeah.
Nobody really sounds the same.
Yeah.
What do you kind of chalk that up to? Because you're living in it and you know a lot of these people. And I'm sure you probably write with other people as well. So what's been your experience with that?
I think the artistry portion, like how we all sound different and everything, is basically just all of us learning who we are. I mean, honestly, who we are, what's our style, what inspires you, what kind of just gets you going where you're like, man, you're super passionate about it. I think it's just honestly like working though on honing in the craft of your art. And I think that's how we're able to stay within, genres, if you want to say that, like country music, but yet you have people like Jelly Roll. And then you got Lainey Wilson. And then you got, Luke Bryan and Zach Bryan and Luke. I mean, like, we're just so all over the board, and they're all country, like in their own way, but it's like they're all so different. And I think
it's so different.
Yeah. But I think if you look at each one individually, they all have their own spot, they all have their own brands, their own voice. They all have their thing going for them. And I think that just comes from years of honing their craft. And I will say this too, if anyone's thinking about moving to Nashville, that's the one thing that I really realized when I moved here is because, it's almost like that iron sharpens iron. And so when you move here, it doesn't matter how good you are or how good you think you are, there's always someone better.
Yeah.
And there's so much talent in this town. And so when
people
you're
always pushing you,
they always are pushing you. Always.
Yeah.
But see, I learned that really quick because I'm like, man, there's no way that you can be stagnant living in a town like this, because everywhere you go, it's just like everyone's so good and they're pushing you to be better. And it's like, I've never found a community like that anywhere else. It's really just incredible.
How difficult is it? How difficult was it for you to not kind of crumble under that weight, when you first got there?
Well, who says I didn't?
Well, I mean, because you're here, right? So you made it. You came out of it if you didn't, yeah.
No, right? I mean, honestly, though, that's a great question. And to be really honest, I think that has to go back to one, I was super, super determined. I knew this is what I wanted to do. I knew this is where I was supposed to be. I was grateful for every opportunity and just kind of shut my mouth and tried to soak in as much as possible. Mm-hmm. I was like a sponge. So even if someone told me no or not yet or whatever it would be, I would just listen, because I believe that you have to be so good that they can't tell you no. And so I just want to know, like, okay, the answer is no. What do we need to work on? But also too, I think a huge reason on how I was able to stay here in Nashville and kind of go through living in my car and, all this transition is surrounding yourself with this wonderful community, because we are very, very competitive. Sure. That's no lie. But because we're all creatives, I think we all just understand each other, and we kind of get where everyone's at and where they're coming from. So, I mean, when I started actually going out and meeting people when I first moved here, and they find out like I'm writing songs and sleeping in my car, it's like, hey, I have a couch. I have an extra bedroom. Do you need this? Hey, do you know this person? Let me introduce you. So, I mean, I think it's just a mixture of just determination, but also just the great community that we have here in Nashville, for sure, is the reason why I'm still here.
Now, that's great. Now, do you do a lot of co-writing? Is that's like the artists we've had on? It seems like there's a huge community where you like to collaborate, right? Like not only help each other out, but actually collaborate on the songs themselves, right? So
definitely. So I used to do a lot of co-writing. I would do, like, for years and years. When I first moved here, I would do like 3 to 4 writes a day.
Wow.
Just all co-writing. And I still do co-write, but nowadays I find that, I have like my group of people that I just write really well with.
Oh, sure.
And so I write with them and we have fun and it's cool. I honestly, though, after the pandemic, I think that changed things for me, because I don't really care to write over Zoom.
Yeah.
I like to be in the
imagine doing that.
Yeah, like, to me that was
It's got to
just
be
the
impossible.
craziest thing, that, because it's like we're supposed to be, collaborating, and I can't even hear your guitar because it's basically just distorting, and it just wasn't fun. So I actually started to write more and more by myself, which is something I did from time to time, but I was just like, great, I'm going to write. And so a lot of the stuff that we've put out since the pandemic, and we're actually this weekend going into the studio to actually now start on another project. It's like all these songs I'm 100% on. I wrote them all just by myself.
That's awesome.
Wow.
And
That's
so
great.
I think it's just something where I think songwriting is a muscle, if you will. And I think because I've co-written so much and I still enjoy doing that, especially like with another artist, like writing for someone else's project where we're writing for a purpose. Like, you need this kind of a song, I got you, let's write. But for my own self, I feel like my muscle has just been strengthened so much that I'm like, I think it's cool just to write it by myself and just kind of like, I know what I want to say as an artist. So let me just do my thing. So it's a little different though, but but co-writing is great for sure. Especially if you just move to town, it's the way to connect for sure.
That's great.
So with your history being in studios and and the whole audio engineering thing, like, what is it like for you to be in the studio? Are you kind of, do you feel like you have to kind of be like a hands-on type of artist, or you kind of just like step back and let, like, let you're the artist, I'm going to put my stuff out and let the other people do their work?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it changed. When I first came to town and I did my first like project as an artist, that first EP, I was hands-on, but when it came to creative decisions and mixing and mastering and certain things, arrangement, instrumentation, I left that up to other people because these people are so good. And it's like, dude, I'm a kid from Bakersfield. Like, this guy's worked with Reba. I don't,
I'm going to think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to tell him that needs to come up 3 dB or whatever. It's like, no, like, just no. So I kind of kept my mouth shut. I just don't think that I really knew who I was as an artist maybe quite yet. And I think I had, I was still figuring some stuff out, and I just was like, man, this guy knows what he's doing. It will be great. Nowadays, that's completely different. Because I think that like I said, I think I kind of just more honed in on really what I wanted to say and how I want to sound and, what we're doing. And so therefore I'm actually now like really hands-on. So the last song that we actually released was a Christmas song. We just released this past Christmas, and it was a cover of the Buck Owens Christmas classic, Santa Looked a Lot Like Daddy. And so that was my first time since the pandemic going in and doing full band tracks, right? Like, we've done acoustic stuff, but it's like, let's go full band. So we went in, but like my husband, Chris, and I literally played all the guitar parts that you hear on that song. That's like awesome. Him and I we literally like the solo. I played the first lick, he plays the second.
That's awesome.
I mean, like, we did everything. I had a lot of time just during the pandemic to kind of practice guitar chops and kind of, just hone in on stuff. So but I co-produce all of my own stuff now. I'm super hands-on. I work
awesome.
with a great producer though, Pat Lassiter, who's just a great, great human being. But, you know, he's also just a very talented engineer. He's also a legendary bass player by trait. So he's actually played with the Charlie Daniels Band and Lori
Oh, wow.
Morgan. I mean, you name somebody, he's played bass with them.
That's
but
awesome.
yeah, so he plays bass and engineers and produces my stuff, and it's kind of like a co-venture. But yeah, I'm definitely now way more hands-on, like even to the point where like I write the song and I literally put out the number chart like for the musicians, like this is what we're doing, like this is how we do it. So
that's great. So like
it's changed.
So tell us about like give us like examples, like, because we like to get a little bit like nerdy on this stuff.
Yeah.
So like what do you do? Are you like, no, that like I don't like the EQ of the guitar and how you have the tone? Do you get into that? Like, do you get in?
Yes.
Like, you get in all, you're like, oh, the mic, you know, you're not really micing the amp the way I want it to sound. You go in there and move mics and stuff. That's awesome.
I always, with Pat especially, which is why I kind of just have found him and work only with him. He's so good at this stuff.
Yeah.
He doesn't need me to tell him. He's the perfect match of me, because it's like, you know, I have a Fender Blues Junior amp over here, which is a really super cool. It has like a weird Eminence speaker in it. It's like a Sweetwater exclusive or whatever.
Oh, nice.
And I love this amp. Love this amp.
Yeah.
And you know, I have my pedal board and everything. We were dialing in tones, and I you know, we had put the mic kind of, you know, just SM57 just right in front of the cab, and I'm getting my tones, and he goes, hey, can I try to like move it down to the right corner?
Yep.
And I'm like, what does that sound like why are we doing that? And so he went in and he moved it, and dude, those were some great guitar tones that day. But you know, it's things like that where
that's
it's
an art form, right? Like miking an amp is a total art form. Like I can't, I get all these amps in here. When I record stuff just for fun and stuff, it goes direct in. Like I have like a load box and I go direct, because like I've tried to mic things and I just can't like get it the way I want it to sound. So I end up going in and running IRs and stuff, which is great for me, and it makes my life easier, and I get a better sound out of it, because I'm just not, you know, I don't have training like you. I have no idea what the heck I'm doing.
Well, and you know, Pat too. I mean, like yeah, I have the training and the experience, which is nice because I can communicate to Pat maybe like what I'm hearing or what I want.
Yeah.
But he's done this longer than I've been alive. You know, and especially being in Nashville, it's like, yeah, I mean, this guy's
got a little experience there. Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, I think it's cool to be able to communicate, you know, to session players, like, hey, here's the chart, like how it goes. And here's like a reference track of like, this is kind of what I want it to sound like. And here's what I'm thinking for this guitar. Like, communication is really cool, because then people, I think, will help get their vision. But I also think, like, you know, I hire people and, you know, always appreciate collaboration, because I believe that you're so good at what you do, and I don't want to interfere with that.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, I heard a story about, do you guys know who Brent Mason is, the session guitar player?
We know all about Brent Mason.
Yep.
Okay. Love that guy.
Yeah, he's
love
awesome.
that guy. I heard a story one time, and I think this is so good, and I don't know how many times that we think about this stuff, but basically someone who had a lot of money paid Brent Mason to come in and play guitar on their record, okay? And they wanted him to do like these diamond, just kind of like strum and hold it type chords. Now, if you know who Brent Mason is, that's a waste of money, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a waste of money.
That's not
yeah. Like, you have Brent Mason, and it's like you want him to literally strum 1-4-5. Like, get out of here. And so I guess Brent Mason, you know, Brent Mason literally was just like, no, dude, like, go hire someone else. And he walked out of the session.
Wow.
And it's like, right. But I'm like, man, I respect that about Brent Mason, because it's like, if you hire someone like him, he has his expertise and he knows what he's doing. Don't put him in a box. Like, let him shine.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I think
that's why you're bringing him in.
Yeah. Right. I think you just best service the song and your art and everything that way. So I try to be that way with like everyone that's involved in our projects, because it's like, man, I don't play drums. So you're the drummer. So, dude, I want you to let loose in there and let's come up with something cool. Yeah, like, you know,
you hear both ways though, too, because you hear artists talk about, you know, like the being very, you know, tied into exactly what's going to happen. I want to hear this sound, and I want this kind of thing in the solo, and I want whatever. And then you have artists where it's like, you know, no, I hired you to do what you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think
whatever it
that's
is.
a
And
great way.
they just start doing their thing, and next thing you know, magic happens. So
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. It's cool. I think it's just the beautiful thing about collaboration. You know what I mean? It's like having a clear enough vision to know kind of what you want, but then also giving people their jobs and just letting them go loose with it. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
it's the
great.
beautiful thing about collaboration.
So great, Ash. So listen, I want to talk about the acoustics sessions because that's kind of the latest kind of EP you got up there. You got a bunch of videos on your website, which is awesome. So just kind of talk about how that went and what it is. And I want to ask you about a couple of the songs. Also, we're just going to say off the bat, you're playing a beautiful Gibson acoustic. Looks like Chris is playing an Acoustasonic. You know, the guitar that everybody loves to hate, but it sounds freaking great.
Dude,
so
okay,
all you haters, listen to this.
I have a confession, guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I actually like 2 days ago got one of the Acoustasonic Jazz Masters.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And I
okay. And what do you think?
Really? Okay.
Oh, wow.
So tell us why that's the case.
Yes.
Okay, so
because do you know who Rhett Shull is by any chance? He's a very popular guitar YouTuber. He just recently put out a video about how much he hates the Acoustasonic. I'm sure Fender isn't. Fender isn't pleased with him. But anyway, I'm interested to hear your thought.
I think just like anything else, so let's start with my bougie guitar thing. Okay, so I own like 36 guitars.
Wow.
There is no shortage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Hold on. Stop
Wait
the
a minute.
part. Stop the show.
So guys,
I have inventory.
We're going in a totally different direction. This is going to be the Patreon
I was going to say the Patreon
episode
episode is going to be like she's going to go down every single guitar.
All 36 guitars. I hope you have all
for that, guys.
So we'll kind of go back. Okay, so my husband Chris is my band leader and my lead guitar player, and he's a wonderful musician. So, and like I said, we play all of our own guitar parts. We're big music gears. So between the two of us, I mean, it's a lot, but we have currently 36 guitars in our house.
Wow.
And we use every single
I'm
one.
I'm moving in with you.
Okay, hold on. Hold on. How does this work with a husband and wife? Do you guys fight over guitars? Are you guys like, no, I'm playing that guitar on this part, and you're going to play that guitar on this part?
We sit down and we literally like when we go into the studio, we literally sit and talk about what guitars we want.
Nice.
And we kind of already work out parts and everything. It's very much like, I call it woodshedding, you know, like the Leonard Skinner days where it's like you go in the shed. Like we'll literally sit and figure out what guitar parts, what tones. Like we kind of dial a lot of that in before we go into the studio, just because I find that it makes it a lot easier and quicker.
Yeah.
So like, you know, we're going in this weekend and it's like Chris has like a Gibson Les Paul Supreme. And I was like, dude,
very nice.
That guitar on this track. And so then we were talking about like I have like a Gretsch Penguin. And I was like, dude, yes, that. So I mean we go through and we talk about like acoustics and just all that stuff, and we figure all that out before we go into the studio. But
with that many guitars,
so that's guitar numbers. That's 1 and 2. Let's go on to number 3.
No, but with that many guitars, it's hard to decide. Do you have a number one? Do you have like a number one you always go to, either acoustic or electric or?
Well, okay, so
it's a hard question to ask me, and I don't have 36 guitars.
Well, you were talking about my Gibson acoustic in the acoustic sessions video.
Yeah.
So that is actually my dream guitar. That is a Gibson J200 in wine red. Yep. That is my dream guitar, and I love that guitar more than anything in the world. That is a great guitar. I am a Gibson acoustic girl though to the max. I also have the newest guitar that I've gotten is I have a Gibson Hummingbird.
Yeah.
Nice. I actually got the Miranda Lambert model, which is that Viper blue color.
Oh, cool. I don't know that I've seen that, but I'll have to check that out. Okay.
Oh, you need to Google that.
Cool.
Yeah,
all right, as you're talking, I will.
gorgeous guitar. That one I actually played on the Christmas track that we were talking about. That's the acoustic on that. Then the first really nice guitar that I ever actually bought myself, I don't know if you all can see it, but hanging behind me, there's like this natural color guitar with the pick guard.
Yep.
Yes.
So that's a custom shop J45.
Beautiful.
And that was my first nice one. But the top is Engelmann spruce, and it's rosewood back and sides. Very interesting sound to that guitar. So those are my Gibsons. But yeah, my husband Chris owns a bunch of Taylors,
Nice.
like a 12 string, and I think it's like a 916. But yeah, so we have a couple Taylor acoustics, but I would say probably the Hummingbird or the J200 is like my main acoustic guitar. So
this
if you watch it,
this blue is like
This
just
thing
it's
is
gorgeous.
freaking stunning.
Wow.
I'm in love with it. I'm not, I
Oh,
used to,
it's
because I
great.
told you I used to do the singer songwriter thing. So, and I had a Taylor,
Yeah.
and I love my
Oh,
Taylor. I
yeah.
still own it, but like now I've kind of like fallen out of love with acoustic guitars. But you're making me fall in love with them. Between the one you have on
This thing is beautiful.
between the one you have on your acoustic sessions and this thing,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, maybe I need a Gibson acoustic. Maybe that's where this is headed.
Dude, they're great. Yeah. I mean, I love those. And then as far as like electric guitars,
Yeah, what do
I
you like
mean,
there?
I'm a country artist, so Tellys are my jam.
Yep,
I love
Yep.
Tellys. I have a Brad Paisley Telly.
awesome.
That's
Which one?
probably been my main one. I have
Dave wants to know
a
exactly
modern
which
player.
one.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I mean I love Tellys. We own a lot of different Tellys.
Oh, I bet.
I have a 72 thin line, which has the humbucker
Nice.
in the neck,
Very
which
nice.
is that's really
That's
good.
awesome.
I usually play that one with full band shows.
Yep.
I find if you put it in the middle pickup setting, it just really emulates an acoustic strumming thing. And then you flip it to the bridge and you can play lead. It's just really
That's
cool,
great.
like having that humbucker up there, how you can switch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we have Les Pauls and SGs, and we have a lot of guitars. But like I said,
you have a fun house going on.
Yeah,
over
I mean,
here.
seriously, it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So what's your go-to?
Basically,
sorry, go ahead.
it's basically all just like food and music and our golden retriever. I mean, it's pretty chill.
I gotta come over.
Yeah. Come on, Ash. Seriously.
I'm inviting myself over, Ash.
Yeah,
next time I'm in Nashville, I'll be like, wait a minute, I heard this is amazing.
Shout out your husband's YouTube channel too, by the way, because we were talking about this before recording. But
yeah, my husband has a really great low carb cooking channel on YouTube called Chris Cookin' Nashville.
Love that.
So y'all go check him out. Subscribe.
Yeah, check this out.
So let's talk about the songs a little bit as we're getting into time here, and we can continue this on Patreon. But I want to talk about the guitar solo because I feel like country is something that still pays homage to the guitar solo, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like the guitar solos are kind of coming back. They never really left country. They've always kind of been in country. But I think with your music, like you kind of pay appropriate respect to the guitar solo, right? So like how do you think about that when you're writing songs or when you're producing your like how do you think like this is where the guitar solo is going to go, or this is the kind of guitar solo I want? I think it's something like people don't talk about a lot, but I think with songwriters in particular, I mean, as you as such a guitar, person, like how do you think about it?
Man, I love that question for starters. You guys are so great. I feel like I get to be like my nerdy, geary self.
Oh yeah,
with you guys.
This is the guitar
awesome.
dads.
This is the guitar dads. We get as nerdy as you want.
Right.
Yeah, no. So no, that was a great question. So I think to really to maybe understand it, I think you have to go back to like, I'm a kid from Bakersfield, California. And if you really dive in, and I mean, this is a rabbit hole. If you dive into what is the Bakersfield sound, like what does that mean? It's not where those records were made. What came together to make this sound that sounded like a freight train. And it was very guitar driven. Buck Owens was actually a session player up in Hollywood at Capitol Recording Studios before he was an artist. So I mean, him, guitar was just this like massive part of it. So to me, like kind of just understanding my roots and like where I'm from, and then understanding where I came up with, it's like my music will always be massively guitar driven because that's what I like, and it's what it is. And so I feel like very intentional about that. So I appreciate you saying that I pay respects to it, but I think that's why like I try to play my own guitar parts when I go into a studio.
That's awesome.
I don't hire a session player. Not that there's not 20 guys if I throw a rock that can probably play better than I can.
Wow,
but that's just anyone,
It's Nashville,
like, whatever. Yeah. It may take me an extra take, but by God, I get it, But no, but it's like, I work to incorporate that into our live show and play my own parts in the studio and to do these things. But honestly, how I kind of write nowadays is, I'll sit down and I'll write a song by myself. And then what I do pretty much immediately is I go to Chris, my husband and my band leader, who also plays lead guitar, and I will play him what I wrote. And I'll tell him, like, I want a riff like blah 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 blah, or I want it to have this feel and this thing, and we write a guitar riff right then and there.
That's awesome.
So when I walk into the studio and to record a song or whatever, or before I even go play a song out, it's like there's a guitar riff in there. Because to me, I think of artists like Dwight Yoakam.
Yeah.
Hit a Dwight Yoakam song, man. You hear that Pete Anderson guitar riff, and you know what that song is.
Yeah, they're like, you could, and that's a great point. I love that as well. Like, it's not just about the solo; it's about like the guitar riff, and like I call it like a guitar.
It's a calling card,
like a guitar hook.
Yeah,
like I love songs with guitar hooks in them, right? And that's like, and your songs are doing that. In a lot of your songs, that's what you're doing, which is it totally comes through. Just so you know, it's working that way.
Well, awesome, man. I appreciate it. I also hope too, like, not to sound like an old lady for a second, but just to be honest, I feel like when I picked up a guitar and like started to learn how to play, and even now, I mean, like, I try to practice every day. Like, not that I'm perfect, but like, I just love guitar, and I don't know like what my life would be like if I didn't play guitar.
Yeah.
And I just wish that more younger kids would get into it.
Yeah.
But nowadays a lot of the music, is just very electronic, and it's all done on MIDI controllers, and that's fine, like to each his own. But I'm like, man, let's bring back guitars.
Yeah.
Like real guitars, real drums, like actually playing instruments. Like, let's do that.
I mean, it did have a great resurgence in the pandemic. A lot of people picked up the guitar. So that was great. Like, I guess Fender had like the best sales year it ever had, supposedly.
Yeah.
So like, it's great. Like, guitar isn't dying, but I do agree with you. Like, with the younger generation, it's hard, right? Even like you think about Taylor Swift. Like, Taylor Swift does pick up a guitar and she does her thing, but her music now and the music that made her a billionaire is not really guitar-based music. Let's just be honest. It's just not, right. So I mean, you're right that like Dave and I get all excited, when we're watching the Super Bowl halftime show when her shows up with the Strat, and we just like, our mind is blown. And then my mind was blown on the Oscars when Slash came out and played, and I was like, so like it's there, and you still see it in the very mainstream things. But I agree with you, like, we get a little worried as guitar players and guitar like obsession people.
Well, and even I just, like I said, I can't imagine my life without music, but especially like my life without guitar. So I don't know. I'd love to share that with more people.
That's great. That's great. Do you want it, like, as we wrap up here, like, tell us about tell us about some of these songs on the acoustics sessions.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to know is like, who's the asshole that left you alone on your birthday?
Oh, I can't say his name.
I figured you weren't going to answer that.
Oh, now we got to hit the explicit button.
Well, so here's what's really funny. I won't say his last name, but his first name is Matt.
Oh no!
So,
oh no!
Really
Giving
sweet.
Matt's a bad name. Really, you give love a bad name.
No, you know what? You're my favorite Matt. That other Matt, not so much.
He's not my favorite Matt.
Yeah, definitely not. Dave.
Yeah, my favorite.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of wrap up though, the last EP that I put out is basically what we call the acoustic sessions, and that is honestly just me kind of just being gutsy. Like during the pandemic, we had a really, really hard time. We lost our home and our jobs, and music was gone, and it was just a rough time for us. And it got so bad, man. I honestly just being honest, it's like I didn't pick up a guitar or sing a note for a year because it was just there was so much going on. And I had all these loyal fans that had like stuck with us through all this. And, I finally, full force went back into doing music and, went right back into it. And I just kind of like felt like I wanted to do something different. And I also really wanted to show off, like, I wanted to bare my soul, if that makes sense. Because anyone can go into a studio and you can do the fully produced tracks and you can do a bunch of edits and whatnot, which is fine. My whole thing was I wanted to go into a studio and I wanted it to be real. I wanted it to be raw, and I wanted it to be just here are the songs that I have written And these are like different elements of my personality. And it was literally me, a recording engineer, and then, you know, Chris, my husband,
That's awesome.
playing guitar with me. And so it's just a very like raw, intimate thing. And so we just kind of put it out because why not? You know what I mean? It's just like, clear your soul. Like there's nothing to hide behind. Like, there you go. So, so that's a 3-song acoustic EP that we put out. And yeah, I'm just proud of it though, but that's kind of what that is. And,
that's great.
The songs on there is Cigarette, which is just a fun song about the world going down the toilet, which is kind of what I felt during 2020. Yeah. And then Family is actually a song I wrote one night by myself at my dining room table. I had gotten in a fight with one of my brothers. I have 4 brothers. And, you know, I just kind of learned, you know, as I get older, it's like, you know, just because you have the same last name does not mean that you're going to see the same way.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and just kind of talking about family and getting along. And so that's what that track is about. I call it a letter to my brothers.
Great.
Basically knowing that they're wrong and that I still love them. But
I love you, but you're wrong.
But yeah, and then
I love you,
but they're wrong. But they're totally wrong, and I'm right.
Yeah.
But,
That's right.
Yeah, and the last song that's on there is actually a song called "Play Like Ken," and actually, kind of how that song came about is I was at a bar one night.
Yeah.
And I got down off stage, and there was this guy there, and I call him like a big Southern teddy bear, super sweet. But you know, he came up to me and he said, "My God, you play guitar like a man," and I laughed. I know, I laughed. And I said, "Well, hell, brother, I don't know what to tell you. I guess I just look like Barbie and play like Ken."
That's great.
And so
Great
I don't
line.
know. So I wrote that song that night on my way home. And to make a long story short, it ended up actually being put on hold by Miranda Lambert.
Wow.
And so, yeah. So I wrote it and we got it, and she had it on hold for quite a while, and then she ended up giving it back.
Oh.
And so I play it live, you know, even before the pandemic, and I was playing it live a bunch. And, you know, we just thought it'd be cool just to do an acoustic version of it, you know, and just kind of
it's great.
have fun with it.
I like the guitar work in it. I think it's cool. I mean, actually, guys, like, go check this out if you want to hear some cool acoustic stuff. I think the playing on it is great. Like overall,
well, thank you
both
so
of
much.
you, right? So I know, like, you know, it's so funny. Like, you play like a man. Like, I have a female bass player in my band, and she's incredible, and she gets that all the time, and she's just so, and she's like a really easygoing person. She's not somebody that gets upset at stuff like that, but after a while she gets a little bit upset with, like, you play pretty good, like, for a girl, like those kind of comments, you know. And it's like, oh man, you know, she's like, and she could play most guys under the table, you know. And it's like,
oh yeah,
I think that's super cool. Though. That sounds like my kind of chica right there.
Yeah,
that's
she's
what's
great.
up.
But no, you're gonna get those comments. Like, people just don't expect it, you know. Yeah, it's funny.
Well, and you know, I think it's cool though, and like, I mean, that guy totally meant it as a compliment, and I think it's great, and it's kind of whatever. We were also talking about, I know Christmas is over, but the first like fully produced thing where I actually got to play like all the guitar parts and all is our Christmas song that we just put out.
Awesome.
And that there's like a music video that was shot here at Santa's Pub here in Nashville, and super fun video. But like, you know, Chris and I were really intentional about like swapping solos and like having all the stuff in there. And it's like, that really took people like by shock. And it's like,
I bet it
I'm
did.
like, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a shocking thing. I've just been practicing, you know, just working here, practicing those scales and those bends.
That's right. Get those bends. No, that's awesome. No, and it kicks. I did listen to it on my way home today from work, and I was like, look at this. This is some guitar work happening here. Love it. So, no, that's great. That's great that you played all, you know, you guys swapped the parts.
Yeah.
And I love that stuff too. I love like a swapped kind of solo part. I think that's so cool, right? Like all of the Eagles and, you know, so many other great 2 guitar bands that are out there. I guess Eagles is like a 4 guitar band, but anyway, at minimum 2 guitar band. I love those like swapped kind of solo thing. That's
Well, and it's cool too, because you have that many guitars on stage. Like, you can just fill stuff out so much. Like, it's so great.
It really is.
So great.
It really is great.
A really full sound. Well, Ash, thank you so much. We're coming up on time, but we are going to take this over to our Patreon for those listeners as well. But thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute blast. We're definitely gonna have to get you back on and catch up at some point when you get some new stuff coming out, because we can't wait.
And when you buy some more guitars.
Yeah.
And we're going to tell you, oh, yeah, well, we're going to talk all about these guitars.
We're going to have to hear a little more about the gear on the Patreon.
Okay, I'm cool with that. I'm down. I'm down.
So if you guys want to hear a 4-hour Patreon episode, head over there and you can
full gear tour of Ash's house.
Yes.
Anyway,
yes.
But Ash, go ahead and shout out like all the socials and where everybody can find you and anything else you want.
Yeah. Honestly, the easiest way to get a hold of me is just to head on over to ashtaylor.com. That's my website, and there you'll find links to my social media, music, tour, merch, all that kind of stuff. Do that. And then at every other social media platform, though, it's basically at Ash Taylor Country.
Awesome.
Cool. Very cool. Go check her out, guys. You're going to love her. And if you want to go check us out over on patreon.com/Guitar Dads Podcast, if you want to support the show and come over and listen to some more bonus content.
Yes.
Check us out at Guitar Dads Podcast on Instagram and join the Facebook group. And once again, thank you, Ash, for joining us. And thank you to our listeners. If you're here for the first time, come back next week for some more fun. And for now, that was this week's Guitar Dads Podcast.
All right, that's it. Keep rock alive. We'll catch you on the 5th.